Well, my friends, we've got a lot to talk about. I know many of you probably excited for this show ever since reading all the social media updates from 49ers practice a few hours ago. The instant reaction was one thing as I was coming off the field, but after the big day that Trey Lance had, especially as a bounce back from the very poor day that he had on Sunday, I'm sure that delving into matters is going to be something that's very satisfying for a lot of people who've been following this young 49ers quarterback very closely. Matt Barrows handled our practice report today. Here it is. 49ers Trey Lance bounces back with his best practice of the summer. So, you know the drill. Make sure that you subscribe to The Athletic. Matt does a great job in that practice report, going in depth on Trey Lance's really, really nice day. And that really nice day is broken down like this. You could also go ahead and check out the 49ers QB spreadsheet where I have all the splits, but we're going to discuss that all here over the course of the next, 30 minutes, 1 hour, however long we get to talk. So if you have any good questions, save them for a little bit later because I'm not reading that question section right now. I have a few things that I want to go through as we discuss this practice. But Trey Lance was 14 of 19 today. That's, I believe, 73%. He was 9 of 12 in the move of the ball period, and he had a massive 65-yard touchdown run. The theme today was the 49ers showcased more of Trey Lance's legs. And I had said this after the struggles on Sunday. I'd said, we don't really know and we can't really get a firm gauge on Trey's accuracy, on his efficiency, on what he's going to bring to the 49ers on a cumulative basis in the regular season until we actually get closer to it, because a lot of the practices that we had seen were not showcasing his legs, and legs are something that we know that Trey Lance has. We know that he can run. We know that that's, part of the massive appeal of Trey Lance is that Kyle Shanahan can sit there and he can actually scheme up plays 11 on 11. The defense doesn't have a one-man advantage because Trey Lance is going to keep the defenders honest with his ability to move. Well, the 49ers did keep the 49ers defense honest with Trey Lance's ability to move on Tuesday. And that early read option, it was the very first play of the move the ball period. Trey Lance fakes the handoff, decides to keep the ball, sprints to his left, and he got to that corner fast. I mean, he glides when he runs. There are guys that scurry, and Trey Lance is not a scurrier because he's 6'4", right? So the long strides kick into gear, and when the long strides do kick into gear, he really starts moving. And at around the 10-yard mark, maybe the 15-yard mark, it looked like it was going to be a big game because he got past the linebackers who were trying to converge at the line of scrimmage. And then at around the 20-yard mark, that's when it became a house call. When Ambry Thomas couldn't close that distance to the sideline, Trey Lance squirted through, went all the way. Trent Williams was having a lot of fun. He raised his arms up in celebration. Trent was going crazy way back at the line of scrimmage. Wasn't dancing this time, but Trent Williams was really enjoying the sight of the back of Trey Lance's jersey. He saw the number 5. He saw the name Lance stitched onto the jersey running away from the play. And that's a good sight for an offensive lineman because Trey Lance was headed to pay dirt. So the legs for Trey Lance were a big part of his performance on Tuesday. And I do think that they're going to be a big part of how he plays the quarterback position for the 49ers this season. Now, I post my first video, the instant reaction coming off the practice field. And, I'm apprised of some of the comments and some of the feedback. And it's funny because people are just so divided and polarized on this issue. You would think, I would think that I have mainly 49ers fans who watch these videos and follow me. And it's the funniest thing ever because, okay, assuming that the demographic is primarily 49ers fans, you would think that people and everybody essentially would get excited about Trey Lance having a good day. And I think the vast majority of people have gotten excited, but there's always like a small subset of people who want to say, oh, well, it was only a good day for Trey Lance because of this, because of that, just finding reasons to discredit the good day makes no sense to me. I'm just here reporting good day, bad day, whatever it is. I don't care either way. But it's funny when I look at the comment section and people can't seem to enjoy a positive, because you would think that the people who are vested in this from a fan perspective would want to see positives. Anyway, one of the nitpicks was that there was no Charvarius Ward or Emmanuel Mosley on the field for the 49ers. And Mosley has a hamstring strain. He's missed a couple practices now in a row. He's expected to be back on the field next week. So it's not a serious injury, but no, the 49ers didn't have their CB2. I would say Mosley is their cornerback 2 up until further notice from Jason Verrett, who's still on PUP. And they also didn't have cornerback 1, and that's Charvarius Ward. So, they started Deommodore Lenoir and Ambry Thomas, who I've already mentioned. And the nitpick is that, Trey Lance probably only did this because he was working against the 49ers young second year, second team cornerbacks. But I don't buy that because ball is ball. At a certain level, you have to be able to drop back and complete passes, execute properly against guys who are also paid to play. And Ambry Thomas intercepted Matthew Stafford last year to send the 49ers to the playoffs. Deommodore Lenoir has done good stuff for the 49ers as well. These aren't, just rookies who the 49ers receivers were feasting on. These are players who, especially Ambry Thomas, now have a track record in the NFL. He's got a line on his NFL resume. And when you look at what Trey went through on Sunday in the practice where he was struggling, it didn't matter who was at cornerback. They even kept him in there to face the second team defense for a few snaps, and he was still missing high on Sunday. So it wasn't about who was guarding the 49ers receivers or who was playing defense against Trey Lance. It was about Trey Lance not making accurate throws on Sunday. Just like Trey Lance making accurate throws on Tuesday, what I just saw in the practice field a few hours ago, that was about Trey Lance. It wasn't about who was playing corner against him. It was about the mechanical adjustments that he made to throw accurate pass after accurate pass after accurate pass. And I think those adjustments tied in with his ability to run. I really think that Trey is going to turn out to be one of those players that, I don't want to say has to get hit before he finds a rhythm in a game, but I think his legs, that's an important part of his DNA as a football player. I still remember the play against Arizona last year where they tried to tackle him and he fell to the ground and his helmet got ripped off. His knee might not have hit the ground and he's still fighting for extra yardage. I saw a lot of heart in that play. And I think we saw a little bit into Trey Lance's makeup as a football player. Well, if that truly is in his football DNA, then it makes sense that he would hit his rhythm, that the passes might be a little bit more accurate, that we might see the upper end of the volatility spectrum when Trey Lance has a chance to do, run a couple plays out of the pistol, run a couple read options, pick up some, yards with his legs, maybe eases the nerves. The mechanism can be different for every quarterback, but I think there are similarities in that regard for some of these guys who are dual threats, who are able to do several things. And I think especially early in Trey Lance's career, the ability to run like he did today will be a nice little crutch. And it's one the 49ers don't want to lean on too much, but it will be a nice little crutch for him to find rhythm in games, right? And, you go back to the Steve Young model, he would, have to run to find rhythm in games. That was his rhythm for 4 or 5 years at the start of his career. Tampa Bay, then to the 49ers. I mean, you talk about the Vikings run, right? Steve Young, 49 yards against the Vikings in 87. A lot of people don't realize that Bill Walsh wasn't that happy about that run because Bill Walsh would pull his hair out. It would drive him crazy that Steve wasn't playing from the pocket, that he wasn't waiting for options to materialize in the pass game, that he was really breaking the choreography of the 49ers unit offensively, which required all 11 guys to play in cohesion. Steve Young just decided to play street ball back in 1987 when he ran against the Vikings, right? And it turned out really good for the 49ers. Steve Young's now in the Hall of Fame. That run and Lon Simmons' call, gets away again, is one of the most iconic in NFL history, right? But Bill Walsh wasn't thrilled about it because Bill Walsh wanted the big picture. He wanted a quarterback to deliver within structure. So as Trey Lance develops into more consistently solid, accurate performances, which is what I think will happen, which is what I think that his mental makeup and his current trajectory suggests will happen. As that does unfold, the 49ers will be playing this balancing act, right? They want him to use his legs. They realize how important that is to his style of play, to their own offensive efficiency, because you do keep defenses off balance through the usage of running, but they don't want to take it overboard because they also want Trey Lance to develop from the pocket. So they want to find just the right amount of running that, keeps Trey Lance reasonably protected and also adds fuel to the confidence of the passing game, but they don't want to find too much running to cross that line, right? to where it takes away from the passing game and overexposes him to injury. And, against Arizona, week 5 last year, 16 runs, probably a bit too many. In retrospect, we know Lance was playing with a chipped finger. 49ers really wanted to win the football game. That was the tough deal with the devil that Kyle Shanahan had to make. But if you go back to the Steve Young model, they actually tied his feet together in the pocket to stay there to force him to throw a little bit. I'm not saying that Trey Lance is, going to be at that level where the 49ers have to restrain his running. And I think that's one reason why Kyle Shanahan likes him so much and liked him so much out of North Dakota State, is because even though he had that impressive athletic resume on tape, he also had the pro-style background from North Dakota State and had demonstrated the ability to decide where to go with the football correctly from the pocket. So Kyle actually thinks that Trey, from a mental standpoint, is already thinking as a pocket quarterback. Now he's got to catch up mechanically. And today I thought that I saw him catch up mechanically. The frustrating part for 49ers fans and for people who just watch Trey Lance in general is the mechanics seem to be inconsistent. They come a bit, then they go a bit. They come a bit, they go a bit. And it seems to be correlated with his confidence in that given day and his, just his general cohesion within game flow, which might be tied to running the football. But that's all something that the 49ers are happy to figure out right now in practice. They want to figure out that balance. They want to figure out how to straddle the line. And I'll tell you, I think they really found the sweet spot on Tuesday. Now it's a question of how can they maintain it, because this has been volatile from Trey Lance. Nobody's denying that it's been volatile. You want to smooth it out. I've said this since day one. You got to raise that floor because that floor is low. And you've got to get Trey Lance residing near the ceiling. And today he was obviously residing near the ceiling much more often than near the floor where he was on Sunday. For me, the most notable throw from Trey Lance was the touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel. Remember 2019, week 3, 49ers, Pittsburgh. Steelers come in to Levi Stadium. The 49ers offense just keeps on fumbling the ball away, just like a lot of weird turnovers, right? None of them were really Jimmy Garoppolo's fault in that game. I think he threw a couple picks, but they were like off of Pettis's hands, and somebody from Pittsburgh would pick it off. And it was just a clunker of a game for the 49ers offense as far as giveaways went. And it got to the point where Pittsburgh was up late. I believe Pittsburgh was up 4 points late in that game, less than a minute to go. 49ers got a fumble back of their own. I believe it was Eric Armstead that recovered a fumble or forced one. And it gave the 49ers a chance to win that game at the very end, and win that game they did when Garoppolo found Dante Pettis in the end zone. And it was one of those throws where it was like, ooh, that was a tight window. And the only way that ball fit into the tight window was through a quick release and a zip that, Pettis also had to come back for the ball. That was one of the manlier plays that Pettis made for the 49ers. He didn't sit back and wait for the ball. He got it. So all credit to Dante Pettis there. And today, the 49ers, I think, ran a very similar play in the red zone. Deebo was breaking out just past the goal line. I had the angle from kind of behind and to the right, and Trey unleashed one, and it was a dart. He got rid of it quick. I was impressed with the release on the play, and it, tight spiral. It whizzed through the air, but I'm like, oh my God, this is going to get intercepted. All I saw were defenders. I saw like 2 white jerseys, which is defense jerseys, and it looked like it was going to be a pick. And then all of a sudden, Deebo just broke through and it nailed him in the hands. Touchdown 49ers. To me, Trey's made a really impressive throw, and he's made a few this training camp. The one that everybody's probably, going to nominate as number 1 right now is the one that he threw to Brandon Ayuk early on in camp, about 40 to 45 yards downfield, that got just over Charvarius Ward. So that one was great. That took arm talent. Fine. That could be number 1, whatever the people want. I know they like the deeper throws, but as far as a bread and butter throw that will be able to tell me if Trey Lance can win down in and down out in the National Football League, I thought this 5-10 yarder to Deebo Samuel was more significant because the release was on point. Obviously the spiral was on point. I mean, it was the short game, the way that the short game is supposed to be delivered at the NFL level. And that's been a concern with Trey Lance. We weren't sure if that short game, if the timing and the precision was going to be up to par, because it hasn't been at portions of these practices. But on this throw to Deebo Samuel, it really was. And that short game is going to win you titles. If you can nail the short game, it's going to win you titles. Because we already know that Trey Lance can do some of the backyard stuff. He can run around. He's athletic. He can uncork a few passes downfield. But he's got to keep the offense on schedule, and he's got to convert in money situations. And I felt that this was a money situation where he nailed that pass to Deebo Samuel. 49ers O-line, they generally held up today. That's big news to me because we had talked about the O-line and how, okay, is Trey to blame or is this O-line just getting caved into blame? And the O-line had definitely had some rough practices, especially without the pads when they couldn't protect themselves. And then, one of the things that we talked about on Sunday was they're missing both of their starting tackles. Now, to even that out, Nick Bosa and Sansom Ebukam, the 49ers' top two edge rushers, were also out on Sunday. And even when Trey was going against the second team defense, when, it was, maybe the pass rush is just that deep and that good. But no matter what the circumstance, Trey was inaccurate on Sunday. Today, no matter what the circumstance, Trey was accurate. He wasn't missing throws in this game, right? So in this practice, Freudian slip there. The game is not coming until Friday against the Packers. But anyway, the offensive line, I thought the pass protection was some of the best that I had seen so far this training camp for the 49ers. And that'd be good news if they are gelling into place. We're seeing more action from McGlinchey at right tackle, more for Trent Williams at left tackle. Brendel's in there at center. They're still rotating a bit with him and Brunskill. Spencer Burford is a player that I wrote about on The Athletic. And that article's coming out tomorrow morning. Probably do another video to kind of show you that article and get you to go check it out tomorrow morning. It's increasingly likely with every passing practice that Spencer Burford is going to be the 49ers starting right guard. And they've only started one rookie in week one on the offensive line since Kyle Shanahan's taken over. And that was Mike McGlinchey back in 2018. But McGlinchey was a first round pick. He went number 9 overall. He better start right away, right? Burford's a 4th rounder. And the fact that he's in line to start week one, in my opinion, right now, he looked good today. He didn't look as good in the one-on-ones, but he looked good during the team drills. The fact that he's in line to start, that's really impressive. Coming from Conference USA to potentially starting day one in the NFL. And boy, that would solve a lot of problems for the 49ers if Burford could play solid football at right guard in front of Trey Lance. Lance did have one failure, but I wouldn't chalk it up as a failure on Trey Lance's part. They had a goal line situation after Lance had marched the team down the field, 4 or 5 straight completions, but it was a goal line situation, and it was 2-minute stuff too, so there's only 3 seconds left on the clock. So it was do or die. They're trying to get it into the end zone, and he tried to throw the little quick out to Juwan Jennings. And Samuel Womack III, 49ers rookie Nickelback, long arms. I always talk about Womack III. He's got, the wingspan rivals Richard Sherman's, and he's only 5'9", but that wingspan really means a lot. Samuel Womack got those long arms out there and knocked the pass away, stopped the 49ers. Defense partied. Offense was frustrated. Womack is not going to start to open the season, at least for the 49ers. It's going to be Darqueze Dennard at that nickelback spot. But Samuel Womack, it's kind of like the whole Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo thing on a much, less visible scale because nobody, not nobody, but I care about nickelbacks. But a lot fewer people care about nickelbacks than they do about quarterbacks, right? I guess nickel's only 5 cents and a quarterback is 25 cents. But terrible joke. Not a dad yet. That sounded like a dad joke. No kids yet, nothing on the way. But in a few years, that's a joke that I'm going to have to bring back. The nickelback versus the quarterback. Samuel Womack, though, we could talk all we want about his physical skill set, his long arms, his speed. But playing nickelback, takes a lot of mental wherewithal because you're reacting in close quarters to stuff that's moving really fast in the slot, right? And I think that he has it. Like his tape at Toledo, he was close to leading the nation in pass breakups. And to do that, you have to be in your playbook. You have to know what the offense is running. You have to have great anticipatory skills. And to learn it at the NFL level is something different. It's just like any position where you have to build up in your playbook knowledge. You have to, the NFL is just so much more complex in so many ways with what offenses will throw at you. I think that Womack is in an awesome spot where he can learn from a guy that's been in the league for nearly 10 years in Darqueze Dennard, who's only on a 1-year contract with the 49ers. And you guys know, I talked to Darqueze last week. We talked about it on the video. I had an article up about him on The Athletic. Great guy, loves the college camaraderie, good teammate. And I think the communication that Dennard is capable of, and I think he's giving Samuel Womack, I think is really cool because I think that the 49ers can have a good succession plan in place at a really important position. Because listen, K'Waun Williams, great blitzer throughout his entire 49ers career. The coverage aspect fell off last year. I don't think he was fully healthy at the end of last season. Injury issues were a thing for K'Waun Williams over his time. And the second round against the Rams at SoFi in the championship game did not go nearly as well as the first one when Darqueze Dennard started. So I think the 49ers may lose a little bit blitzing-wise with Dennard, and they're going to make up for that with Talanoa Hufanga probably playing that shark position near the line of scrimmage. But I think they're going to get an up in coverage. I think Darqueze Dennard, who's also 30, he can cover. I mean, Matthew Stafford was scared of him last year. In that Week 18 game against the Rams, those 18 snaps, he only went to Cooper Kupp once when Dennard was in coverage. So the Rams didn't want to test this guy. That's half the battle, right? So I think that Dennard, in that aspect of the game, could be an upgrade for the 49ers. And then what he's going to try to do is going to try to teach Samuel Womack the tricks of the trade. And Womack could be a shark for the 49ers, moving forward into the future, just because the body type that he has for that nickel position. Again, the wingspan, Richard Sherman 6'3", and Womack has, 6'3" type of wingspan, but only being 5'9", the agility, the 4.4 speed, I think he's going to be able to blitz. I think he's going to be able to cover. I'm really excited about this young player for the 49ers, but they've got a system down, right? Where they've got these veterans that teach the young guys, and they could give the young guys, generally, they give them a year to really break into the league. And I think that system is working really well for the 49ers. Now, one guy who hasn't gotten a full year and probably won't is Spencer Burford. So we're going to see how that goes at that right guard position. News for the 49ers, Trey Lance is going to play preseason games 1 and 3. Obviously, the preseason opener is on Friday against the Green Bay Packers. Trey's going to play in that one. I don't think he's, I don't know how much he's going to play. He's not going to play the whole game. I think, it's significant that he's playing. I think it's needed that he's playing. I've talked about this a lot. He needs reps. When the mechanical aspect of the game needs to catch up to the physical and the cerebral aspect, you just need repetitions, especially with the bullets flying during these games. So he's going to play in 1 and 3. The reason that Trey isn't playing in game 2 at Minnesota is because the 49ers have 3 games in 13 days coming up. So we're past the dog days of camp. We're going to be out there again on Wednesday, tomorrow. Walk through on Thursday, which means no media. So it's no practice on Thursday. And then it's playing the Packers on Friday. And then that starts 3 games in 13 days, plus 2 joint practices with the Vikings, which are going to be intense affairs as well. So the 49ers need to find a way to make it through the storm here, weather the storm, make sure they have enough fresh bodies and they don't all end up hurt by the end of this stretch, because that's brutal. 3 and 13 is really brutal. And, you don't want to overexpose your running quarterback, a guy that can really move and will take some hits in Trey Lance, but you do also want him to get the proper reps. So he's going to play 1 against the Packers and game 3 against the Houston Texans, but he's not going to play in game 2 against the Vikings. He's going to get that action against the Vikings in the joint practices. Other good plays today, Nate Sudfeld to Willie Snead IV, who is the free agent wide receiver, vet. He's an accomplished vet in this league. Sudfeld threw a nice red zone touchdown pass to him, followed that up with a nice TD pass to Troy Fumagalli, who also made a pretty catch of that ball near the back of the end zone. I thought that those were 2 plays. And then we had this guy, Dr. Dip. I will not lie, I had no idea who the hell Dr. Disrespect was. He's on the right, but apparently he's one of the most famous video game players in the world. One of the most famous online personalities in the world. And I just thought it was very Gen Z of Greg Jackson. And I don't even know when Gen Z starts, right? But it's definitely not my generation. It's 2 young guys. Greg Jackson is being right here. The handshake, bro hug, and Leah Davis is going to come in a second. These guys were just completely in awe of Dr. Disrespect, who I guess keeps the bid up at all times. He's wearing his gamer glasses, as you can see, and he's also got the headphones. So I looked up some of this stuff from Dr. Disrespect. This guy, he plays video games, and he's got the camera on himself, kind of like I have the camera on myself, talking about the 49ers. And he just kind of talks crap to people and has this whole persona. And he was a really nice guy when I talked to him in person today. I just thought it was hilarious how the 49ers players were in complete awe of this guy, who's massive, by the way. He's my height. I'm 6'5" and a half, 6'6". He was just as tall as me. And he's a gamer. So obviously he's not only playing video games, guys working out as well. So that was Dr. Disrespect at 49ers practice. Now, before this, Kyle Shanahan had spoken. That's when he told us about the Trey Lance preseason plan. It was funny. Shanahan really heavily criticized Trey Lance's interception to Fred Warner on Sunday before today's practice. He said he had no idea where Lance was going with the ball. I didn't either. It was an ugly interception. And Shanahan did not sugarcoat. He's not like putting Trey Lance into bubble wrap as far as criticism. He said, that was a terrible play. We got to be better. Then what happened? Well, what happened is that Trey Lance turned around and responded. 14-19, 9-12, and moved the ball, and a massive 65-yard touchdown run. So we always talk about how is somebody going to respond when, stuff isn't going very well, especially in the NFL. That's a very important gene to have. And Trey Lance did respond really well in this practice on Tuesday. So now it's about stringing it together, keeping it up. I think I was the first one that kept on saying Trey Lance is a high volatility player, low floor, high ceiling. It's about bringing those together, and you want to bring them together by keeping you want to keep the ceiling right here, and you want to move the floor up, right? You want to move the floor up. You do not want to lower the ceiling. And I think the 49ers are being very wary of that. You don't want to scare a guy into not throwing downfield. You want to keep the ceiling for Trey Lance high, let that athleticism shine, but simultaneously raise the floor so that those ugly plays that we saw on Sunday and have seen through some other practices will not be there. Along those notes, why don't we take a look at Trey Lance and his footwork warm-up today? Every single practice I try to bring you something new from 49ers practice, and today we're talking about Trey Lance, so I'll play a Trey Lance video. And, it's my goal to showcase something that you may not see if you can't be there. If you're only watching, some highlight reels on Twitter or Instagram or wherever, or YouTube, I guess that's where we're at right now. So this is just kind of a peek into the 49ers practice and a look into Trey Lance's footwork, because they focus on something different during warmups every single day. And today I thought the footwork focus was especially big. They got into the red zone and they started throwing from about the 10-yard line with Brian Griese there showing Trey Lance the ropes into the end zone. So obviously the focus was on quick release, compact, frame with the body, and, squaring up and throwing a good football. And to me, this was significant because I already talked about the nicest throw that Trey Lance made of the day, and it was the one in the red zone to Deebo Samuel. And it was about of this length. Maybe it was a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, but it was to his left, and he had a zip one into the end zone, and there had to be some heat on it. And the release had to be sound. Everything had to be technically good. And I thought that Trey Lance carried over what he's working on in warmups here to practice, which is exactly what you want to see from a young 22-year-old player who's still developing. So this is just an extended look at Trey Lance going through that warm-up routine. I mean, I don't want to nitpick anything too much, but I think just the visuals are good. Trey Lance there, by the way, in the red hat on the left, you see Bobby Slowick as the 49ers pass game coordinator. So Trey is talking to him in between reps here because we have Nate Sudfeld and Brock Purdy throwing. Brian Griese, 49ers head quarterbacks coach, he's right there taking the knee. Griese is such a hands-on coach, way more hands-on than Rich Scangarello was for the 49ers. Scangarello, it'd be a lot of standing around and probably be charting stuff, and he was directing traffic. But Brian Griese, he's a former ball player. He likes to get down and dirty in some of these drills. Now you see the throws to the left side from Trey Lance. This was the direction of that pass to Deebo Samuel that I mentioned in the title at the bottom, right? He looks to the left and fires there. I don't think there was much looking to the right before the throw to the left on the actual touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel. But that's a look at the release and the delivery. Again, I am no throwing expert. I'm not going to pretend to be one. I talk to people who are much smarter than I am about this kind of stuff. And everybody that I've talked to that's actually an expert regarding this, on the record, off the record, has said that Trey Lance's release has tightened up, that it's something that he, has been actively working on. I know Trey doesn't like to talk about it too much in public because that could be a slippery slope. I get it, for competitive reasons. You don't want, pass rushers to know what exactly you've been working on. Make them figure it out on their own through the game tape. But I think, we have plenty of footage from Trey in practice to analyze now that's shown that he has a much more competitive NFL style release. In fact, on this very channel, I put up the slow-mo video of his release, And he's not dipping the ball. One thing that even an amateur can see is that he's not dipping the ball under his belt anymore. I mean, he was looping under his belt last year. He's keeping it higher so that release is more compact. Playing next to Jimmy Garoppolo last year, it's also that could have been benefit by osmosis for Trey Lance, because Jimmy, the strength of his game is the quickness of the release and the upper body mechanics. He can get that ball out quick without a lot of unnecessary motion, maybe no unnecessary motion. There was some unnecessary motion. There still is in Trey Lance's release. But I'm telling you, the touchdown to Debo today, that was one that it was really important that there was very little unnecessary motion, because you don't have a lot of time to fit it into those windows. Defenses in the NFL are going to jump all over throws that are telegraphed ahead of time where the quarterback takes too long to release them. 0.2 seconds, 0.3 seconds. That's all that an NFL DB needs, especially a good safety playing zone who's got his eyes on the play. That's all he needs to break up a pass. If he doesn't have those 0.2, 0.3 seconds, it could slip right by him. And I think we saw that with the touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel today. So that is Trey Lance's warm-up. I mean, I still probably have 3 or 4 more minutes. No, it's probably a minute more of this footage, but it's all in high def. So I'm sure you guys enjoy. Look how good the weather is at these practices. I mean, that's something. It's at most 80 degrees, dry heat. Everybody's having a good time. Get a good tan out there. I gotten some color here during training camp. You got to wear the sunscreen. Put some on the neck. That's where you get most of the sunshine. But it's amazing to me that there are NFL teams in some of these southern cities where it's just a swamp, humidity, just up through the roof in August. And they, if they don't have indoor bubbles, they have to do this kind of practice outside. It's one of the appeals of playing for the 49ers. You could have decent training camp practice in Santa Clara. And if even if that's too hot for you, just drive up to San Francisco where it's August right now and be a lot cooler. I was actually in Aquatic Park yesterday swimming, and I do some swimming at Coyote Point in San Mateo, and I do some swimming in Aquatic Park in San Francisco. It's like 70 degrees water in Coyote Point, but man, San Francisco, you're going down another 10 degrees. You're probably at 60 right now. It's a big difference. It's a really big difference. I don't wear a wetsuit in some parts of the bay. There are people that don't wear the wetsuit in Aquatic Park. I don't know how they do it, but anyway, the main point is that the weather in the Bay Area is actually bearable at this time of the year. So that was practice today. Sub to The Athletic, sub to the channel, follow along on Twitter and Instagram as I wade into the Q&A session. So how was everybody's Tuesday? That's the big question right now. I'm going to open up some practice notes because maybe I can talk about a few other things that happened. Have these popped open on the screen. Jason, not happy. Don't start talking about the Bay weather, man. I get emotional knowing I can't enjoy that almost every day. I wonder where you live. I was in Nashville this summer. Boy, it was hot. Lovely place. Hot weather in the summer. A lot of these places in America, I want to be in springtime and fall. Fall's cool because you get the seasons. That's one thing that you miss out on in the Bay Area. You don't get the actual fall, the leaves and everything. That's really nice. You just get, as a trade-off, you just get that moderate weather all year long. Yeah, what the hell's going on here? 300 plus views, only 70 likes. What? I don't even know if that's a good ratio or bad ratio, but according to E-Man, which might be E-Man, how's your hamstring going? If your hamstring is, if you're doing good, then just give me a thumbs up. But it's probably not Emmanuel Mosley. But he has a hamstring strain. He's been out of practice for a couple days. Shouldn't be too serious. He'll be back next week, they said. Are you going to be on Pat McAfee when he does his beat reporter segment? Well, let Pat McAfee know that he needs to invite me to be on his beat reporter segment. He hasn't reached out yet. So, I don't know who he's going to pick to do that, but I've never met Pat McAfee. He's got a good show. Would love to be on it. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to take you guys to do that, though. I think it's going to take you guys flooding his producer's inbox or whatever. So I'll let the Army do that for me. I don't know how to get on Pat McAfee's show to be his selected beat reporter other than have some people recommend me. So go ahead and do that. Charlie Werner, he's walking around at practice. I see him. He's not in uniform or anything. He's doing some work on the side. He's watching the drills from the sideline. I think they expected him back at some point during camp. So that's something that we might get an update on here in the next couple days. I think Kyle Shanahan doesn't speak again until Friday, so maybe that's when after the game we can ask Kyle Shanahan about that. But Charlie Werner doesn't look seriously hurt anymore. I think the timeline more or less seems to be going along the original schedule. So that's all I have to say about that. Yeah, Pat McAfee with George Kittle was good. George is just a good interview. I had a show with George Kittle. I was at a tight end U. We had a nice little one-on-one discussion. It was cool. It was George who insisted that we do it selfie style. So I was like, all right, let's do a selfie style video. And, then now the selfie style videos have made their way to 49ers training camp as they come off the field. So that was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll have some fun in the locker room this year too with the 49ers. Yeah, Croft is going to make this football team. I'm almost sure right now. I mean, Croft has a track record. Vet for the Cincinnati Bengals, played for the New York Jets, where he picked up this offense right under LaFleur last year, Mike LaFleur. But before then, I mean, he had a 40-plus catch season with the New York Jets. So Croft had a 40-plus catch season with the New York Jets. He's a solid football player. He's a good blocker. I mean, he might be the best blocker outside of Kittle at the tight end position for the 49ers. And that's significant given the fact that he can also catch the ball. Is this one of the more talented teams that you've covered since? Yeah, this might be the most. I mean, 2019 was really talented. They've been really talented since 2019, since they infused with the edge rush, right? And since Garoppolo was healthy, it was a really, really talented team. But they're a little short on wideouts in 2019. They've taken the next step at wideout, and they've enhanced the secondary. So if that defensive line finds an interior rusher that can get the job done, and I think that puts a lot of pressure on Javon Kinlaw, and if that defensive line finds somebody to rush opposite Bosa, which like 5 different guys might do, which I think is a good probability thing, this is a really, really loaded roster. Now, interior offensive line is a question, but that's been a question throughout the entire Shanahan era. So if we're comparing rosters, I think this one has a very good chance to come out at the top. And I think Shanahan believes that as well. Just looking through some more questions here. Armstead, they moved him inside last year. He's not a full-time inside guy. The ideal for Eric Armstead is big defensive end on base downs in the 4-3 when you're fighting the run, because he's great setting the edge against the run, and then kicking inside on nickel downs to rush from a tackle position. Last year, they had to have him almost exclusively inside due to injuries there. Kinlaw got hurt. But if Kinlaw stays healthy, Armstead stays on the outside for those base downs, right? And then you kick him inside a little bit later on. Armstead is a versatile player. It is a deep 49ers roster indeed, as I look through some of these comments. Jorge Rodrigo says, I think if Lance plays just as good, if not better than Jimmy, and we stay healthy, we could be the second team to ever be perfect. 20-0, baby. Let's go. I appreciate the enthusiasm. I don't think 20-0 is likely for anybody. One thing that I would, really emphasize that people realize, and, just because it puts so much pressure on Trey Lance, it's not going to be easy to be as efficient as Jimmy Garoppolo was for the 49ers. It's not a given. Was every time that Jimmy was healthy, this was at least a top 7 passing offense, and they'd go through stretches where they'd be top 3, top 2. So, and Shanahan and Lynch have made this very clear. It's not going to be easy for Lance, especially right out of bed, to be that efficient. They believe he can raise the ceiling here to be, to bring this offense to number 1 levels year in and year out. I mean, that's why you invest so much in him. But you can't just do it in your sleep. If you could do it in your sleep, then Mullins would have done it. Beathard would have done it, and all these guys would have done it. Those guys had a lot more college experience than Trey Lance did, right? And they didn't. The 49ers offense wasn't good then. So it is going to be something that the 49ers have to work at, which is why we do expect growing pains for this offense moving forward. And, this feeds into my point. I hope people don't turn on Trey real fast. I've been Trey Lance's, I don't support or hate on players, right? I'm a neutral journalist. But if you look at how things have actually played out, I I would consider myself one of the, if not the biggest Trey Lance proponent throughout the past couple of years, simply because I have tried to stay realistic with the expectations around him. So I never went out and said after one pass during training camp last year that Trey Lance should be the starter, or that it's easy, just toss him in there week 2, week 3. Trey Lance should be playing all the time. And the reason I didn't do that is because that's not how football works. That would have been terrible for Trey Lance. On an on-field level, I mean, he would have not been ready for it, right? And we know how ugly that can turn out. But B, from a perception level, the reason I try to keep it real this whole time is the perception level is what's so important for a fair evaluation of a player. If you have an entire horde and mass of people thinking that wrongly thinking that he was totally ready to start last year, then when he actually does start the very next season, right, when several months have passed, they think he should be in the Hall of Fame. They think that he should be completing 75% of his passes from day one. So the overzealousness to get to Trey Lance last year, the whole not treating the Garoppolo Lance situation fairly, not recognizing the 49ers plan for what it was, that overzealousness ended up being more damaging to Trey Lance than anybody else. Because now he has to fight that perception. So many people deluded themselves into thinking that this was going to be a quick and easy job for Trey Lance, that now they're like, oh, what the hell? He struggled in one practice. And that's where people turn on you as the quarterback. And it's this violent back and forth that maybe 49ers fans more than other fan bases, due to the whole Joe and Steve history, I don't know where it comes from. It's this violent back and forth that just has to stop, because it's not good for anybody involved. It's not good for the mental health of the fans. It's not good for players who are just trying to grind and work really hard. It's not good for like a smart appreciation of the game. You can't go from thinking this guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame on his very first throw of training camp as a rookie to turning on him a year later because he didn't meet the expectations that you yourself had set insanely high, right? So my goal is to make stuff a little bit more even keeled. And, I think it's ridiculous when people turn on a player because of their own expectations, because he didn't clear their own ridiculously high bar. Yep. I mean, this is a great summary. People want every QB to be Mahomes, Allen, Rodgers day one. And guess what? Mahomes, Allen, and Rodgers weren't Mahomes, Allen, and Rodgers on day one. I mean, they did a whole show on this yesterday. The Josh Allen model, by the way, we talked about the Josh Allen model for Trey Lance, right? Ray McCloud played for the Buffalo Bills in 2018. He was there year one with Josh Allen. Unsolicited, said that he saw a lot of Josh Allen and Trey Lance. How cool is that? So that comp is something. Ray knows ball. Ray McCloud's been in the league. Ray knows what he's talking about. He compared Lance to Allen, and I think that's a very valid developmental path that the 49ers should strive to take. But Josh Allen, year one, completed 52.8% of his passes, had an interception rate of nearly 4%. That's really high. He wasn't accurate. He didn't turn into the Josh Allen that we know as a Pro Bowler until year 3. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith. He got good really fast, obviously, but it wasn't until year 2. So everybody wanted Lance to do what Patrick Mahomes did last year. That would have been ahead of the Patrick Mahomes schedule. And, Aaron Rodgers started his career, right? I mean, so it's never something that happens overnight. Never has been. I don't think ever will be. If even Mahomes wasn't a year one guy, if even Mahomes had to sit that 1 year before he turned it into that Pro Bowl level, it's just not something that you can expect to happen at the snap of a finger. Yep, Ray was in camp for Josh Allen. Oh, it was Josh Allen year 3, was it? All right, well, I stand corrected. I thought it was 2018. Yeah. Well, Josh Allen year 3 then was 2020, right? Either way, Ray had a front seat to Josh Allen, and he made the comparison today, which is my overarching point. NFL media is responsible for some of that. Well, yeah, I mean, I get it. I try not to, fall into that trap. You try not to fall into the click trap, right? They have these complete polarizing taglines. It's Mahomes Hall of Fame. Is Lamar washed up? Like, WTF, guys. NFL Network needs to do some work. Yeah, I mean, it draws eyeballs. It's lowest common denominator analysis, right? When you say, is Lamar washed up? Is Mahomes in the Hall of Fame? I mean, and there's a reason why, on a national level, there were so many incorrect assumptions about the 49ers quarterback competition. I put it in quotes because it wasn't a competition last year. Everybody's like, on a national level, everybody thought that Lance was running away with it. And it's like, wait, we're actually at practice every day. And no, he's not. He's hasn't even gotten any first team snaps, right? Because everybody wanted that storyline. They wanted Trey Lance to barge in and do this. And it's almost like you preset a story and then you want the facts to fit the story. Instead of taking the facts and making the story, that might be the more tedious way of doing things, but it's the right way of doing things, right? Taking the facts as bricks and then building the story as a house. Instead of just building the house up in your mind and then trying to make the bricks fit the house. And I think that, just with social media and the desire to just grab attention as quickly as possible these days, we put the cart in front of the horse, so to speak, nowadays, instead of having the horse pull the cart. Jacob Long is not excited about the 49ers offensive line. And it's a fair concern. They didn't do a good job pass protecting for Jimmy Garoppolo in general. They got a bit better last year before McGlinchey got hurt and they had to go to Tom Compton at right tackle. And then Trent Williams got hurt and that destroyed the 49ers' chances in the NFC Championship game because he played on a high ankle sprain. So they finally got a bit better in pass protection, but in general, they haven't been good enough to win a Super Bowl in pass protection under Kyle Shanahan. Facts are facts. They have to get better in pass protection, especially with a new QB. Now, will Trey Lance's escape rate be better than Garoppolo's? Yes, I would expect so. But does Trey Lance need good offensive line play to be good? Yes, just like every quarterback needs at least competent offensive line play. I draw this, illustration so much, but I can't beat this dead horse enough. And that's Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl 55 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers behind a entirely replacement offensive line, essentially. Did not look like the Patrick Mahomes that we're used to seeing. Kansas City scored 9 points. They scored 9 points because Mahomes didn't have any protection in that football game. E-Man says they should have cut Jimmy a long time ago and reinforced the offensive line. Have to protect your biggest asset. These two are not connected. They could have reinforced the offensive line in a way that would have more pleased you while still keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. They could have restructured. The cap is not going to be an issue for the 49ers. In the what they need is in-season spending potential, because then you could go and trade for somebody before the deadline. That's where the potential Garoppolo money that's going to be coming their way is going to help. As far as the offseason goes, they wanted to sign one more player. You saw with Debo's deal. Debo is a mega deal, and the first year of his contract only has a $6 million cap hit. They easily could have shuffled chairs around. They just didn't want to. Now, maybe they'll be right. Maybe their belief in the in-house options will be correct. People have the right to be skeptical. I'm skeptical. I want to see what Brendel does. I want to see what Burford does. I'm very impressed by Spencer Burford, by the way. He was up on the podium today. He carries himself like a pro. And, we got to see what Aaron Banks does. I'm a wait-and-see guy. Okay, this is the 49ers plan. Let's see if it's a good one. They have invested in their offensive line. They just haven't invested the way that some people might like them to invest. But they want to invest and develop. Maybe it goes up in flames. If it does, let's criticize them here for 2 hours straight if that makes you feel better. But the thing is, we don't know if it's going to work or not. They have a plan. They've executed the plan this offseason. It will be put into full motion as far as regular season games go, starting in about a month on September 11th. And then from that point onward, we can really start to judge it. That's all I have to say. Nobody's picked up J.C. Treader yet. He does have some bad knees. He doesn't practice a whole lot, so I think that's why the 49ers are hesitant. But to his credit, he didn't miss a game in 5 years for Cleveland. This is a good one. The Killer Bees inside. Burford, Brendel, Banks, left or right to left, because Banks is going to be left and Burford is going to be on the right side. Everybody make sure you sub to The Athletic. I'm going to put that up on the screen right here. I have an article on Burford coming out tomorrow morning, so that's going to be a big one for you guys to check out. In-N-Out Burger is going to be dinner tonight. Had Fambrini's for lunch, In-N-Out Burger later dinner. Wanted to get through the show first, though, because I know that you guys love these evening shows. Sub to the channel. Smash that like button right now. Wonder where we're at right now. Maybe check this out on YouTube. See what's going on. Yeah, why don't I do that? This is going to be fun. View your own show on YouTube. It's going to be like Very picture and picturesque. Oh, it's making me watch a commercial. I guess that's how it works, YouTube. All right, there I am. Cool. We started 49 minutes ago. Maybe that means it's a good time to stop. Yeah, 50-minute show. That's about right. All right, everybody. Hop on to The Athletic. Hop on to this channel. You can follow along on Twitter, too. Welcome to our 2022 49ers coverage. Talk to you all soon. Thanks for joining the show tonight. Everybody have a good dinner. If you've already had dinner, have a good evening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye now.